I have created too many wildcard drafts and I'm finally set on one. Let's take a look. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today will be my game week 8 team selection. My wildcard is indeed active and I've finally confirmed my draft after many iterations like I've said in the intro. But today, I'll display not just my thoughts, but some future iterations I could be making before the deadline. So let's keep an eye and let's get straight into the video. So lads, as usual, the like goal of this video is 400 likes, so smash that button for me. And thank you for 9,000 subscribers. We're just about there, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And let's roll on to 10k. So let's get straight into the draft. On goal, I've got Robert Sanchez currently, and on the bench is Dubravka. We're going to go through this draft position by position, and I'll leave ship strategy later down the line, and we'll talk about it a bit more. Just to know, I have my bench boost left, so I will definitely have that in mind with my wildcard currently. But let's talk a bit about Robert Sanchez. Now, the bench order isn't quite done, but I have 0.1 million in the bank, and I have been tinkering for the last 2 weeks. And Robert Sanchez has made his way back into my draft at 4.9 million. Again, Chelsea have probably the most favourable fixtures on the FDR. And Nottingham Forest is a great opening fixture with Ange Postecoglou's team really struggling. And of course, that's Sunderland at home fixture next week. Now, Nick Pope would be the ideal candidate for me, as David Raya probably comes in at a small bit too expensive now at 5.8. Now, I know Arsenal are by far the best defence in the league, and we'll talk about that a bit later in just a second. But I feel like Robert Sanchez at 4.9 million, with the pairing of Dubravka, who is getting continuous minutes, of course, and not the worst fixtures. I could definitely see myself playing Dubravka this week, but I'm happy to go with Robert Sanchez, and unless price changes come in, and I get points two more, I would love to do Sanchez to Pope. But let's see come the deadline if that's possible. Let's go into the next defender in the team, which is our route to Arsenal defense, Jurrien Timber. Now, for me, of course, I feel like he is a great value asset. And when we look at this team, lads, a lot of the same picks I chose 2 weeks ago are in this draft, which is always a good sign for me. Meaning, over time, I'm coming back to the same players. Now, maybe that is stubbornness, or I genuinely believe in some of these picks. But for me, Jurrien Timber, who I got a nice little price rise on, and he's that small bit cheaper than Gabriel. It allows me to use the funds elsewhere without spoiling who else is in the draft. So I'm happy to get a route to this Arsenal defence. I feel like we're getting to the point of the season where if you don't double up on the Arsenal guys at the back, you're probably at a loss and not great for your effective ownership. But I'm happy to get Timber in, and he's had decent goal threat so far, numbers wise, and on the eye test. He's passing it for me. Again, won a penalty in the last game, of course. And I'm just hoping, again, I do feel like he'll probably miss out 1 in 10 games, but that's fine by me at this price point. And I'll expect a lot from Timber. Again, we have 4 games before the next international break, so just something to keep in mind. Let's move on to the next defender in the team. We've got Joe Rodon. Again, he will be starting this game week, I believe, for me. And when we get onto the bench, it does have a bit more depth to it, and I could easily bench Rodon this week. On the bench, we've got Anderson and Mukiele as defenders. Let me know in the comment section what you would do. But for me, Roden, I'm more than happy to start this week again. Another player I got a price rise this week, so he's now 4.1. A nice opening fixture with Burnley, and great for DEFCON. I don't think there's much or too much to say on Joe Roden. And in comparison to other 4.0s, of course, we have Alderete, who's potentially injured now. You have the likes of Esteve, but I'm happy to go with Mukiele or Roden. Let's move on to the next defender and last one of the team. We've got Chris Richards. Now, Palace are one of, if not the best team at getting DEFCON so far this season, and Chris Richards has been great at 4.5. I'm surprised he's not gotten a price rise as of yet, but I'm happy to go with Chris Richards, as I feel like there's a lot of value in these 4.5 million defenders, and 4.0 I might add. And again, with Anderson on the bench, he'll rotate nicely as the weeks go on. So, as you can see, we don't have too much tied up in the defence. Let's get straight into the midfield. So our first midfielder, he is an Arsenal asset, and it is not Bukayo Saka. He's one that really excites me. Of course, it's Erebeshe Eze. And let me quickly talk on midfielders before we get into the Arsenal assets in general. So for me, I feel like there are many good midfielders, especially budget ones. It's just you can't have them all. And there will be one man in particular who is missing, and I will have a piece on him as soon as we finish the section on midfielders. But let me quickly speak on Eze, who has Fulham away, with Martin Odegaard likely out until the start of next international break, which I did say was 4 fixtures until game week 12, I believe it is. And even at that, we don't know when exactly he's going to be back. I think Eze could pick up some great minutes in these next 4. And give me a route into those Arsenal midfielders / attackers in general. Now, a lot will be on Victor Gyökeres, or stretching 2.4 million, I believe it is now, to get to a Bukayo Saka. But penalties are still up in the air, in my opinion. I don't want to say it's 50-50. I would likely say it's probably 70-30 likely on Saka. But with the unknown of whether Saka and Gyökeres are on penalties for me, I feel like maybe at that 7.5 range, which Eze is now, maybe 7.6 with price rises, I feel like he could be great value. Do you know, if Eze is getting the similar enough minutes as Saka, and Saka doesn't end up taking that penalty, again, not that it's likely, I just mean food for thought and my current thought process and how much I'm losing out from a Bukayo Saka in comparison to an Eze. Again, Saka is by far a better asset, but for me, I just wonder in a 4 game week block where the fixtures are good, can I pick up on a great value asset? And Eze is going to get minutes in this team, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. So Eze is almost locked in my team. I love the idea of him. I feel like just because I can't stretch to a Saka, I want him in my team. So let's move on to the next midfielder, which is Ismail Sarr for Palace, who looks like he's going to get more minutes than Jean-Philippe Mateta with Nketiah back around. Again, a nice, a decent fixture for Sarr, of course, with Bournemouth at home. Doubling up on the Palace guys with Richards and Sarr. I feel like Palace, again, have been phenomenal, and Sarr seems to always get big chances. Since he's come back from injury, he's been on fire, to be honest. And I feel like Palace's fixtures right now are not great, with Bournemouth at home and Arsenal away next week. But from then on, I feel like I'll want Palace assets in my team. So I feel like Sarr, even in the bigger games, can do quite well. So definitely delighted to own Sarr. And not much else to say on him. Let's move on to our next midfielder, and one of my most exciting ones, due to me being a Spurs fan, of course, Mohamed Kudus. So let me talk about Kudus. There is a lot of talk about him, and I understand a lot of people own him. Just to know, I've got Kudus for 6.5 million. I have a nice bit of value tied up in him now. He's 6.8. Again, Kudus has been Spurs' best player this season. Again, I've repeated myself from multiple other videos, but I'm going to assume that you've not heard me speak before. But for me, Kudus is definitely Spurs' best player. And if I'm Thomas Frank, I'm looking at that Spurs front three and thinking, how can I get goals out of that lineup? Again, we've been kind of struggling from an attacking output if you look at our numbers. And that's without a doubt. I don't doubt that. And if you look at the returns Kudus has got, it's been in some of the easier games. And Spurs now go on to some bigger games after the first 7 game run. But I feel like Kudus is going to be one of our big game players. We've seen Thomas Frank historically do really well against a lot of the top 6 teams at Brentford. Again, he utilized players like Brian Mbeumo, Ivan Toney, and played a quite systematic way where he used Mbeumo on the break. I feel like in the big games, a player like Mohamed Kudus, who is our main man, is going to have a big say in these games if Tottenham want to get results, to churn results out of these games. So I feel like even though the fixtures have gotten worse, again, you might say this is hopeful thinking, and I am a Spurs fan, so I am, of course, hopeful. I just really like what I've seen from Kudus thus far this season, and I really don't know who's going to get the returns for us if it's not going to be the likes of a Kudus. And again, that striker spot for Spurs kind of being up for debate with Slanky looming around, of course, who was injured, and Colomwani and also Richarlison. So I am happy to go with Kudus. Again, he only comes in at 6.5, a 90-minute nailed asset for a top 6 team. And I do expect Spurs to do quite well this season. And again, although the numbers haven't been great from an attacking point of view, I do think there are goals for Spurs in these coming games. So that's my piece on Kudus. Let's move on to one of the main men in this draft, and also my game week 8 captain so far. We've got Mo Salah. So a lot of people are telling me, Choi, Mo Salah, bad numbers, he's washed. I don't know how or why you would ever go to him. And I understand that. For me, it is that no one has him, and I think there are. I don't think Salah has suddenly lost his ability overnight. When you account for the fact that he's also not had a big injury. Liverpool are also by far the best attack in the league. I'll pull up a stat here to show you the goal projections over the next run of games. But Liverpool by far top in the list. Again, he does head off to DEFCON. And after I talk about the midfield, I want to just quickly talk about bench boost. But back to Mo Salah, I feel like being able to go against captaincy, whether or not it's going to be every single week for the next three, I'm unsure. Again, he's got United at home, Brentford away, and Villa at home, which are very nice fixtures for Salah. And we do know the big man in Erling Haaland has some quote unquote difficult fixtures, if you want to say that. Again, he's a bit more fixture proof, I would like to say. But if you're asking me, Mo Salah is not a finished asset. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, the other person you would have instead of Salah is, of course, Saka. And I can see the case for it. But Saka has come back from injury. Again, the goal he scored last week was a penalty. I feel like we would be having a slight bit of a different conversation if he didn't score a penalty. And also, he did score a screamer for England, don't get me wrong. And we know how good of an asset he can be. But as 90-minute men go, I don't think there is a better one than Salah, even though he is aging. Again, no big injury for him, and he loves to play against Manchester United. So I'm not locked on captaincy, but I am locked on Mo Salah, and I'll tell you that come the deadline for sure. Just to note, by the way, we are doing a deadline stream on Saturday, 2 hours before the deadline, so do check us out to make sure that I am locked in with my players. But that's my piece on Mo Salah. I feel like come game week 12 when he plays against Nottingham Forest, everyone is going to want Mo Salah and people will be scrambling. I want to be there. 2 free transfers ahead. So let's move on to the next midfielder and the final one, of course, in Enzo Fernandez. So I finally have Fernandez in the team. I don't know why I'm saying Fernandez, I mean Enzo. But I feel like with the fixture run he has, the value he comes in at, if he gets one return, he's quite good on bonus also, and he has the slight chance of getting DEFCON. I think he's a great asset for sure. And with Cole Palmer out, he's likely on penalties. So not too much to say on Enzo, to be honest. I think he's definitely a great asset, and he's got the return so far this season. I know maybe he could go to a Caicedo, but his numbers are a bit skewed. I don't expect him to carry on his goal threat. But who is missing from this draft? I don't want to hold on Enzo too much because I don't think there's too much to say. Great value asset with good fixtures. Antoine Semenyo, the obvious one. And I've spoke about Antoine Semenyo. I have quite a big risk appetite for anyone who knows me as a manager. So I feel like I'm happy to go against it. For me, it's not necessarily about Semenyo. I think he's been arguably the best player in the Prem this season, barring Haaland. And that's without a shadow of a doubt. I've said that you don't even need to watch the games to know that. And he is the main man at Bournemouth. They don't have Europe. And also, he's getting 90 minutes and he's a talisman potentially on penalties, even with Kluivert on the pitch. But what I'm looking at is to go against him for 4 game weeks, perhaps, and bring him back in for West Ham potentially in around 12 when the fixtures get a small bit better for Bournemouth. This is probably the worst period to bring in Semenyo, and not to say that he can't do it in more difficult games, but for me, for 4 weeks, I think I'm more than happy to go against it. And a lot of people won't agree with that. But when you have the likes of a Salah, and as you can see, I'm clearly trying to stretch funds if the defense is a small bit thin. Well, I have to make compromises somewhere, and I can't have double Arsenal defense, and I can't have Saka as well, and I also can't have Semenyo. So let's move on to where I've compromised, and let's get on to the final piece of this team, which is the forward line. So getting onto the forward line, of course, we've got Erling Haaland and we've got João Pedro. So let me quickly speak about João Pedro. I don't have anything to say on Erling Haaland other than captaincy, which I'll get onto in just a second. But for me, Pedro is almost a no-brainer. To be honest, I don't care how many shots he's had in recent weeks. With the amount of red cards Chelsea have had, I do expect with this good fixture run for Chelsea that Pedro will have a bit more shots. And again, he's another player who's great for bonus if he gets a return. So for me, Pedro is almost a no-brainer. You could definitely go to a Nick Voldemade for sure. But I feel like Pedro edges it for me for sure. And doubling up on Chelsea could be quite nice, especially if you cover no Cole Palmer, who I'm unsure on his return date. But with Nottingham Forest and Sunderland at home, you have definitely the 2 penalty takers you'd be expecting for Chelsea in Pedro and Enzo. And also, Pedro is quite talismanic. Again, he's not quite shown that again because his numbers have been not great this season so far. But I still feel like with the fixture run, Chelsea could look really good as a not just a team, but attack and defense. So let's talk about Erling Haaland slightly, just on captaincy, because I have Erling Haaland, of course. I have what, point 0.5 or point 0.6 built up in him now. Sorry, I can't think, but I think it's point 0.5. He is definitely still in my team, of course. I have no reason to go against him, and I have the insurance if I go against captaincy. That's one thing to note. So if I do go against him in a given week, providing he doesn't score a hat trick, it shouldn't hurt too much, and that's why I think there is so much value with potentially going against the captaincy. Of course, I'll cover half the points if he doesn't score a hat trick. Well, of course, I'll have half the points even if he does score a hat trick, but I just mean it won't hurt as much. Where in comparison, people won't even own my differential captain, I don't imagine, if they do own Erling Haaland. So it is exciting, it is bold, but that is everything I am in a manager. Is it optimal? Probably not. But I'm happy to go with it, and I've been quite firm on this. Again, just to know, I don't do this to be different for different sake. I really believe in my picks, I think that there is an opportunity here to pick up a lot of points over this run of games where we have a period for Liverpool where the fixtures get ridiculous at some point, and we're going to want attackers for their teams. So that's the lineup. Let me know in the comment section what you think. We're not done yet. Let me quickly talk about my chip strategy. Again, like I said, I just have the bench boost after playing Wildcard 8. As you know, we get the 5 free transfers in game week 16, and this is my chance to talk about bench boost. So when am I planning to bench boost with this tin bench? So we have 3 playing bench players in Dubravka, Anderson, and Mukiele. As you can see, I have 4.3 Obi, which is not ideal if I'm looking to set up a bench boost. But this year in particular, we are spoiled with not just chips, but also with transfers, with the 5 free transfers with AFCON. And with the fact that I have Mo Salah in place, and I will be looking to get rid of him potentially in game week 15 or 16, well, that will give me a lump of money to do a double move. So let's just say later down the line, and I understand if you think it's really hard to plan that far down the line, but the likelihood is, unless I get a big injury in my team, that I will own Mo Salah because of fixtures. There's no reason I can see myself getting rid of him, even if he is poor in the next 2 or 3. I'm probably going to have to make my bed and lie on it. But also, going back to that point, because I'm going to have to get rid of Salah, it gives me plenty of time, I would say 4 game weeks, before I have to bench boost to bring Obi up. And my current thought process is to bring Salah down to any midfielder, to be honest. I could target the fixtures and easily go to a Gakpo or a Wirtz for Liverpool because the fixtures are great around that time as well, and bring Obi up to Alexander Isak. And that way I'll have a full playing bench, 1 Liverpool asset on it, and then Dubravka, Anderson, and Mukiele. Worst case scenario, I still have 3 free transfers to work around with, providing I'm not too stuck in the following or the game weeks before that. And also, I'm just after hitting the wildcard button, so I'm hoping that I can roll 2 to 3 transfers come game week 15 at least. So that's the current chip strategy, lads. Let me know what you think of the team in the comment section below. Like I said, I will be doing a deadline stream on Saturday. I'm really intrigued to see what you guys think. I understand if you don't like the draft, but it's just my current feeling, and I haven't looked past it for the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to wrap up the video there, lads. Again, we are currently 340k in the world, hoping for a big green arrow this week. Let me know what you think of the team in the comment section below. And before you leave, hit the like button and subscribe. And as usual, I will see you in the next.